Ah, Smart Water, now in a sleek can.
This feels cool, literally.
Perfect for social gatherings and on the go.
Should I start wearing turtlenecks?
One sip at a time, friend. Smart Water cans, for those with a taste for taste. Get yours today.
Running a business comes with a lot of what-ifs. But luckily, there's a simple answer to them. Shopify. It's the commerce platform behind millions of businesses, including Thrive Cosmetics and Momofuku. And it'll help you with everything you need. From website design and marketing to boosting sales and expanding operations, Shopify can get the job done and make your dream a reality. Turn those what-ifs into... Sign up for your $1 per month trial at shopify.com/special offer.
The Roger Stone Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Welcome back to the Roger Stone Show. Right now in the Eastern District of New York, there's a federal trial going on against the founder of OneTaste, a wellness company, Nicole Dadone, and one of her executives, Rachel Sherwitz, that has brought a lot of public scrutiny. Publications as diverse as Vanity Fair, Revolver, the UK Daily Mail, and Upstate Art Voice have been harshly critical of this prosecution. The government seeks to position this as some kind of sex cult, but then we learned that federal prosecutors actually colluded with executives and producers at Netflix to create a documentary that became the rationale for the indictment of these two women who are on trial in New York. But here to break down this complicated story is Frank Parlato Jr. He's an investigative reporter, the founder and, the publisher of Art Voice, the Upstate Lively Arts outlet. Frank, thanks for joining us on the Roger Stone Show.
Thank you, Roger. Glad to be here.
So this is complicated. For those who've never heard of OneTaste, what exactly is it?
OneTaste is an educational company founded in San Francisco, California. And its goal was to, and is to, educate people on human sexuality and also in thriving and advancing in life.
But reading about it, this is more like, I would say, like yoga or meditation. I mean, this has to do with a higher consciousness. There's nothing overtly sexual about this, but the government tries to paint a very different picture. What drew people to OneTaste?
Well, there was a component of it. I think maybe its principal practice that attracted many people was a meditation practice that they have named orgasmic meditation, or OM. I'm really kind of surprised, having read about this case, the things we have learned about it, that it's going to trial. It's interesting that Dadone and this woman, Rachel Sherwitz, they are charged with conspiracy to commit, what was it, conspiracy, help me here. Forced labor.
Yes, conspiracy for forced labor, correct. As opposed to conscripting somebody to forced labor itself. That seems kind of concocted in itself. Were people being forced to stay in this practice, or could they voluntarily leave?
The situation is unique because there never was a federal prosecution based only on forced labor conspiracy. That is to say, they conspired to commit forced labor, but the government couldn't find evidence or proof that they actually forced a single person to labor. So they're charged, these two women, with conspiring over a period of 12 years to get people to labor under the threat of serious harm, but they were unsuccessful. So only the conspiracy charge is charged in the indictment.
So I saw Matt Gaetz, former congressman, has a show on OAN. He was criticizing the FBI and this trial, saying this was another example of a weaponized judiciary and extraordinary overreach, and in his case, outright corruption by the FBI. What has been the FBI's role in this entire sordid tale?
Well, I think ultimately the the very noble and expert prosecutor Kash Patel will ultimately have to look at this case, and a man named Elliot McGinnis, FBI Special Agent Elliot McGinnis, who is the lead agent in this case, I think it will be found was guilty of evidence tampering, obstruction of justice, perjury, and suborning perjury. And one of the things that they did was that McGinnis collaborated with a woman named Aries Blank to fabricate evidence. And the evidence was created initially for a Netflix documentary. And McGinnis and Blank came together and put this Netflix-produced fiction, and they put it into evidence as if it was real evidence, a real journal. They got caught. Aries Blank was kicked off the case, but the stubborn prosecutors continued with the case anyway.
So who are the other witnesses?
It's a motley group of former disgruntled employees and students. OneTaste had about 32,000 people take the class over the years, and a couple hundred employees, and the government got a half a dozen or maybe 10 former students and employees who are willing to say that they were brainwashed.
How much of the story will the jury in the end actually hear? How much will the judge let in? Sounds to me like this FBI agent will have a very hard time under cross-examination.
Well, the government, he won't be cross-examined. The government refused to call him. But the defense, rather, is calling McGinnis. They had to go through a lot of hurdles to get permission to call McGinnis because the government knew he was unable to testify truthfully. I don't know if he's ever testified truthfully in his life, but he tampered with evidence here. He used his personal email instead of his FBI official email. He got caught. He hid evidence, and of course, as I said, he fabricated evidence. So the defense is going to call him, and he may just take the Fifth Amendment.
I thought it was extraordinary when the plaintiffs here moved for dismissal of the charges against them. No fewer than 20 FBI agents showed up in court in some kind of show of force, which tells me the government knows they have an extraordinarily weak case. This isn't about justice. This is about optics, power, control. This is something I have never actually seen previously. At least one member of Congress has written to the head of the FBI saying that he thinks there are extraordinary abuses of power here by the FBI and by federal prosecutors, and asking them to look at the case. We have a new U.S. attorney there, and it is clear, in my opinion, this case should have been dismissed from the get-go. What do you think happens next here in the courtroom, Frank?
Well, they're right in the midst of trial. Day 5 concluded on Friday, and you're absolutely right. The FBI came in a show of force. The prosecutors came, more than 20 of them. And I think it was a signal to the judge, who I believe is entirely intimidated. She's not capable of conducting a fair trial, in my opinion. She's really should just take off her robe and join the prosecutors. She has repeatedly ruled in excluding evidence that any kind of fair presentation to the jury would have mandated she include. She made a number of what I believe are reversible errors. But they're going to go through, they may go through with this trial if better minds don't get together and dismiss this. And I'm sure the jury will acquit, and there will be another example of overreach by the Department of Justice, weaponized against some people who were just the victims of lies and a crooked FBI agent.
All right, you're listening to The Roger Stone Show on the Red Apple Audio Networks. We'll be right back with investigative journalist Frank Parlato in just a minute.
The Roger Stone Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever find yourself playing the budgeting game? Well, with the Name Your Price tool from Progressive, you can find options that fit your budget and potentially lower your bills. Try it at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law. Not available in all states.
I am so excited for this spa day. Candles lit, music on, hot tub warm and ready. And then my chronic hives come back. Again, in the middle of my spa day. What a wet blanket. Looks like another spell of itchy red skin. If you have chronic spontaneous urticaria or CSU, there is a different treatment option. Hives during my next spa day? Not if I can help it. Learn more at treatmyhives.com.
BTW, FYI. Visit Nexplanon.com RN to learn about Nexplanon. It's an adjustable implant, 68 milligrams radiopaque. Or ask your HCP IRL. Okay, TTYL.
With so many options, why choose Arizona State University?
For me, the only online option was ASU because of the quality. Their faculty was really involved with their students and care about your personal journey. The dedication to my personal development from my professors, that's been extremely valuable to me.
Earn your degree from the nation's most innovative university. Online. That's a degree better. Explore more than 300 undergraduate, graduate, and certificate programs at asuonline.asu.edu.
The Roger Stone Show. Entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
And we're back on the Roger Stone Show. Breaking news, folks. The Secretary of the Treasury, Scott Bessent, has announced that, quote, I'm happy to report that we made substantial progress between the United States and China in our very important trade talks. This is being hailed as a breakthrough. The details to be released tomorrow. We have a framework for a trade deal with the Chinese. Now, Secretary of the Treasury Bessent was actually scheduled to be with us on the Roger Stone Show today. He was actually willing to call in by phone from Geneva, but I let him reschedule because I did not want to distract from his important duties. President Trump, I think, teed this up an hour ago, saying that he was about to make one of the most important issue announcements ever. I think he was referring to this breakthrough on trade. We will certainly bring you the details as we know them, but this is indeed very good news. I think Bessent could be the greatest Secretary of the Treasury since Alexander Hamilton. He's a brilliant outside-the-box thinker. He's a brilliant speaker, analyst, negotiator. He did extraordinarily well for his clients on Wall Street. Now he's doing very well for the American people. I think this is among President Trump's very, very best appointments. We return now to our conversation with Frank Parlato. He is the editor and publisher of Art Voice, an investigative journal, and we're talking about the OneTaste trial currently going on in Brooklyn, where prosecutors allege a conspiracy to engage in forced labor, but not forced labor itself, an unheard of charge never before levied. Two women started a company. The feds decided to indict. Now they're in federal court facing 20 years. Frank Parlato writes, the OneTaste trial is an artifact of the scorched earth tactics of government drunk on power. And language is twisted, memory rewritten, and freedom rebranded as coercion. He writes, it is not about a crime, it's about confusion, where consensual touch suddenly became a federal offense. Before the break, you pointed out that the judge in this case, Judge Diane, I'm going to say this right, Gujarati, has ruled for the government on every pretrial motion, on every process motion in this case. Anytime you see a judge ruling solely for the government and never ruling for the defendant, you know the fix is in. It was true in my trial. It is true in this trial. Frank, you pick it up from there and tell us what's going on. The judge went out of her mind when the lawyers representing these two women charged asked that videos that had been excluded from the jury's sight be preserved, obviously signaling that whatever happens in Brooklyn, there's going to be an appeal.
Well, you have to understand that Judge Gujarati, recently made a judge, was for 21 years a prosecutor in the Southern District. This is the Eastern District. This is a question of honor. The defense has challenged the integrity of the prosecution, the novelty of the charges, and the bizarre and criminal behavior of both prosecutors and, in particular, the FBI agent. It's almost like the blue line. This is a black line for this judge. She has to step forward and ensure that there's a conviction here to protect the corruption in the Department of Justice and the corruption in the FBI that happily Donald Trump and Pam Bondi and Kash Patel are here to change.
We pray from your mouth to God's ear. It's amazing. If there are videos that would address this practice of OneTaste, why would the government not allow them to be seen by the jury? Why would they not be allowed to be presented as evidence? But more importantly, why would the judge lose her cool and start shouting when the defendant's lawyers simply asked that they be preserved? To me, this is an incredible smoking gun.
It is very much so. What the government wanted to get away with was out of context, selected clips spliced, not unlike a Netflix documentary from which this case came. And when Jennifer Bonjean, defense counsel for Nicole Daydon, stepped forward, she was aggressive. She said, the jury deserves to hear context. You can't just take a word here and a clip there and present that out of context. And the judge said, no, of course, because the context might show that these people were happy, that they were adults and that they consented. So she said it was excluded, and Jennifer Bonjean, the attorney, said, well, at least let's preserve these tapes on the record. The jury doesn't have to see them if that's how you rule, but we should at least have them there. That spelled appeal, and Judge Gujarati lost her mind.
Yeah, I don't understand how you can have forced labor, or in this case, not even forced labor, but conspiracy to commit forced labor or to force forced labor if there's no coercion. If people were free to leave, if people willfully decided to take part in this program, the government produces, based on everything I've read, no actual evidence of coercion or conscription or that anybody was locked up or detained or beaten or bruised. I mean, it is this whole case seems to me to be a fabrication. And as you point out, the FBI actually colluding with producers at Netflix to create a documentary which becomes the basis for a subsequent indictment. While that may seem outrageous, frankly, the FBI did this all the way back to the days of J. Edgar Hoover, working with the tabloids to plant stories that would then become the basis for a prosecution. I want to thank our guest, Frank Parlato, investigative journalist. He has another big story. President Donald Trump actually posted last week pertaining to New York Attorney General Letitia James and allegations of the cover-up of sexual harassment by the Attorney General. That is a bombshell story. Frank, we're going to have you back on the show to talk about that. But in the meantime, I appreciate your tuning in today on The Roger Stone Show. We'll be back. We're going to talk about the New Jersey race for governor, one of only two races in the country coming up in 2026, which will be a major barometer for how the administration is doing. We'll be back with Mike Crispy from Mike Crispy Unafraid on Rumble.
The Roger Stone Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network.